Hello everybody, this is Sotibuatin Joseph here, and today we are going to learn how to build a database engine based on the JSON model in Python. Now on this channel we are going to try to build complex stuff in the simplest possible ways, just for the understanding, in such a way that every beginner can understand. As a matter of fact, I am a student myself, and this is also an avenue for me to learn. Now, our database you're going to create, we are going to name it example DB. You can choose whatever name you like, and it's going to allow us to be able to create a database table, delete the table, insert values into the table, and then we can retrieve values from the table. So let's just get on with it. Time is important. Well, first we need the JSON model, because you're going to base an implementation on it, and then we need a few type hints from typing import, I think in, and then we import union. Now these type hints are not really necessary, but I just find out they are great for maintaining projects, so I think you should use more of them. Then we also need the operating system model to do some checks later on. Now let's create example db docstrings. Well, this is our database implementation based on JSON and dictionary objects. Now to initialize the database, we need the self. We also need the file name or the DB name, however you'd call it, but I'll choose to call it file name, which is going to be an instance of string, and all init functions need to return now. So then we are going to put in the fields. So we need to keep records of the file name, because you are going to need it anytime we want to cache our database onto a file. Then our actual database is just a dictionary. We are making everything simple, so we are not creating some complex blobs or data structures. We are just using simple structures, and then at any point in time we are going to load the database. Now loading the database, we mean to check to see if that database has already been created and cached in the past, so that we load these tables and values. So load db, sorry, my bad, and all we need to do is read this file, see if it exists, read its contents, convert it into Python dictionary using the JSON model, and store it in self._db. So we just need to check if operating system.file, where is .file, the path is file. So we check if it's a file. Then if it's a file, that is, it exists on the operating system, then we just need to set the database object _db, which is our dictionary, to whatever is in there. So we need a file path, which is supposed to be an instance of IO. So we open and self._file name, just in read mode. We don't need anything fancy, and well, here we return none. Now having that done, we also need to make sure we can create tables. So define create table, and we will also need a table name, which is going to be a union. Now databases can take Python dictionaries can take keys of many different types. We can take in integer, strings, floats, but it doesn't make sense to use complex structures like lists and tuples and other DB instances as keys, because then they'll be difficult to replicate as they live on the heap. And so rather we are going to allow the table name to be just strings, integers, and floats. And well, we'll return none. Maybe we will return that. Now I think none is enough. So all we need to do is we need to go into our database, then create a new entry which is table name and set it to an empty dictionary. If you prefer, you could take in default arguments over here and pass it in, but I choose to make it an empty dictionary. And suppose you want to delete a table, we just need a table name, which is also a union of string, integer, and floats, and it returns a boolean. Now before we can delete anything, in order to avoid key errors with Python dictionaries, we need to check whether to see that the table is already in the dictionary. So we check if the table name in self._db.keys, if it is in self._db.keys, then we just use the Python delete method to delete self._db table name. And if that is true, we return true to show that yes, it was in there, we deleted it, or we return false if it wasn't in there. The purpose of why we decided to use a return type as a boolean. Then after being able to create and delete tables, we also want to store values. So insert. So to insert, we also need a table name to insert a value into. We've seen these before. And we also need the key. And we know the table is also a dictionary, and so the keys should be keys that are allowed to be put in dictionaries. So keys allowed should also be simple structures such as strings, integers, and floats. And we also need a value, but the value can be anything at all, any Python object. We will store it. Then we return none. So all we need to do is, first of all, since the table name and the DB instance are just dictionaries, we can just do self._db table name and in the table name we do key equals value. But in doing this, there are times where the table is not already created. So if the table is not already created, this will raise a key error around here. It will raise probably a type error. So in order to solve that, we need to check if the table is there, and we do this. If it's not there, we create a new table. So we say if table name, so if not table name, if the table name is not in the db.keys, then we are going to search self_db table name to be true, to be an empty dictionary, which is more or less like create table. And then we could simply have used the create table function, but I just choose to do it this way. And then we set the value to the table as follows. Then it's time to get the values. Now to get the value, you also need a table name. In fact, you almost need all these type annotations, so I'll just copy and paste them. It's just too much. And here we are going to return any, because the value we are returning can be any type. So we just check and see. The table is cell_db dot get. So we get the table name. So first of all, we are going to check if, let's rather check if the table exists. So if it exists, then we are going to return cell_db table name dot get key. Now we are using gets so that in case the key is not in the table, it's going to return none instead. And well, obviously you return none if nothing is found. I think at this point we can test our database to see. So let's create a test function, just a function where we create a db. We say it's an instance of example db and db.db. Okay, let's make it a json, so that this editor will give us nice features. And then once we have the db, let's create a table named t, and then let's insert into the table t, and we insert the key 1, the index 1, and we insert the value first entry. Now just for debug purposes, we can, let's also do another insert, Control+C, Control+Shift. So Control+C, Control+V, and make that second entry. Now the thing is, with this implementation, if you decide to enter something with the same key, it's going to override the already existing. Now for debug purposes, we can print db.keys, db._db, and see what is in the dictionary, and then let's test. So I'm going to open up ideally, and I'll just run python db.py and see. Well, we can see we have a table t with the first value first entry, the second entry. Now let's try to get the values from there. Well, let's try to get the values from there. We can see that let's print them. So db.get, so we get from the table t, and then we get the value, let's get 1, and then we do another print db.get table is T and the key is 2. Now let's get in first value, then getting second value. Then let's run again and see. So yes, we get the values as necessary, but we also find out that we never actually even saved anything to the disk. So suppose our application is running and then it gets close. The next time we run it, we will not be able to get our values, our previous values. So we need to implement some sort of caching system. So let's come down here and implement a save function. So this function should basically cache whatever we have in our dictionary in our _db to file. So all we just need to do is we do json.dump, and it needs an object that we are going, which is our sub_db, and it also needs the file. Here is denoted as file path, but it's actually an IO string, and that means we need to get the open the file. So it will be self__file name, and we are going to open it in write mode. Now to have this work, anytime we make modification to the database, we need to call save. So here we need to call self_save. Then whenever we delete something from the table, we need to also save the table. When we set a value, we need to delete to save the table. Sorry, I said delete. And also when I think that's it. We save, we delete a table, we save, we create a table, we save. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot us deleting an entry, so we copy this, we paste and delete. So almost the same. So to delete, we do the same thing as we did in deleting the table. So all we need to do is we check that the table exists, and if the table exists, we get the table, and then we also check if the key is in the table. If the key is in the table, then we delete table keys. So if it's there, we delete the key and then we save. And in nowise, we need to return a boolean, which means self_save. So we need to return a boolean to show that we got the value. It was there and we deleted it, or it wasn't, we actually did no deletion, so return false. I think that is it. Now let's see our database at work. So let's try to insert more values, and for that I'll use a for loop. So for I, let's do for AB in zip. So let's zip okay, so let's just do for I in range of maybe 1000. So for I in range of 100, well, we are going to insert 100 things. We just do db.insert into the table T. We insert the value I, and then I times let's say 200 percentage of 3 modulo. Sorry, I said percentage. So we just insert, and then the end, let's print db._db, so that we just see the things being put in the database. Many things, and it was fast, pretty fast actually, although this is still very slow, very slow. It's very slow, very slow. Oh man, but if we re-implement this in async, we will see it will become fast. Now if you notice, after running this, after we implemented the save function and we run this, you can see I have a db.json, and that is the name of the database file we created. Now let's take a peek in it. Well, this is a JSON file. Well, I don't know if I have my JSON formatter. Well, I don't have my JSON formatter, but it would have split it into various lines. Oh yeah, I have it. So this is it, a whole JSON representing our dictionary. Turns out I must have made a mistake and I cleared some part away. Well, it's here. So Alt Shift F if you are on VS Code, and you can see it's a giant JSON array, and we could create as many entries as we wanted. And now let's stop inserting all these values and creating these tables, and let's see if our loading mechanism works. So let's see if our loading mechanism works. I'll clear this and see if we can get the values from the old. Oh yeah, they are all there. They are there. Brighter sunshine. They are in there. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. Now, as a matter of fact, the first entry and second entry are not here because they were overridden. But well, we have a database. So thank you very